okay, I need to do my job, but I also need to be not obtrusive. It's not about me. So whilst I would love to light this, that's not good for the couple. That's not good for the guests. It's good for me, but it's not true and authentic to the day. And so what if the ceremony is really contrasty? That was your day and everyone's going to remember it was hot. I always control what I can, but I learn to deal with what I can't.
Hi, and welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today on the show, I'm joined by Kim, and today we're going to be talking about camera gear you use for wedding videography. Kim, tell me about the camera gear you use.
Well, let me walk you through all my gear. So with weddings, very different to shooting a production, very different to working with a team. And yes, you work with a team in the sense of you work with a photographer, celebrant, but you're responsible for your gear. So everyone's different. I've designed my gear with a lot of mindfulness of I have to be able to move this. And I'm one woman. I'm one tiny woman. I need to be able to move this in one go. And there's been times where I've got 10 minutes to set up. I don't have time to go back to my car. At a pinch, I can pull it all in one go. And I do predominantly set it in one go. I'll walk you through everything. So I have my two main bodies on a harness. It changes, but it depends on what the photographer's shooting. So that's where it comes to teamwork, because if they're shooting on different, very different focal lengths, I need to be, okay, well, if they're going to shoot on that, I'm going to be in their shot or vice versa. But if you told me in a perfect world, what do you shoot on? I'd say, okay, I have a 35 mil and a 50 mil.
Prime lenses.
Prime lenses. Yeah, baby. Prime lenses. For my tripods, I have zooms. I have been in one pinch before where I've had to go take. I have them with me and I will change if I need to. But on the day, I'm the couple's best friend. I'm there with them. I'm there with the photographer. So I don't need to. I do want to look at getting an 85, but I think that's going to be too close. But I'm looking at it. But I've predominantly used those. It changes depending on the vibe. So I shoot with that. They're my main two. And then one's a mirrorless, one's a DSLR, predominantly because one, I like the look of when I'm doing sunset. I like the look of when I've got even lighting. I like the colors, and for romantic stuff, the other ones, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I need to be wide, especially say for reception entrances where it happens where they come in and I'm thinking they're running around, they're entering on a cart, they're going to slide in, and I just need to be wide and I just need to capture it wide. So a lot of photographers shoot with two as well. They are moving back to one, funnily enough. The reason being is that they're shooting with a zoom and they're being more mindful with their shots. I like two, and I'm always adaptable to change, but I probably won't change that because I have two that if something happens, I can just drop the camera, which has happened twice, where something has happened in the camera. I could tell it wasn't recording. I could tell it wasn't focusing. It happened during a 30-second sparkler exit. And I just was like, this isn't recording. I don't have time to look. I just dropped the camera on my sling and picked up my other one. And thank goodness to pass me, I was actually already recording. So at those moments when it's an exit of the ceremony where it's one take, or if it's a sparklers, I'll actually roll both cameras. So I don't even need that second. So when I know I can't replicate this and it's only one shot, I'll roll both cameras for that reason, and then I'll start shooting. And then when I edit it, I think, what the heck have you done here? But there's just one.
Is it usable?
No, it's just my feet.
Oh, right.
So yes, very usable. No, it's not usable at all.
Right. I thought you meant you roll them both at the same time and then.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I do. Sometimes I do that with a kiss, or sometimes when I go into my Super 8, which I will talk about, is sometimes with a kiss I'll do a wide because I can and I feel comfortable. But no, I like to be able to move at any second because sometimes it's a kiss, but mum's crying. Okay, we'll get mum in a second. Now dad's crying over there. Okay. So I don't like that's why I don't like big gear. That's why I like to be able to, I love when, some of my favorite editing is when, someone's walking down the aisle and their partner's seeing them. And it's obviously that tear, but I also love people looking for when that person walks down. And then I also love them looking at each other or looking at the other partner. And I love all those micro moments. I think my films are quite focused on the couple, focused on the day, but it's those little micro moments that make it. So I need to be able to get in there. I've got my Super 8 camera, it's new, but I've had it for about 1.5 years. So that was actually my grandpa's camera. And Super 8 was coming in. I was seeing people use it. And I thought, oh, this footage looks familiar to me. And then I showed my dad and he said, yeah, that's Puppy's old camera. So we call him Puppy because it's Opa, but we couldn't pronounce it when I was younger. And he said, I think your auntie's got one as well. And she had one as well. I thought, great, can I have those? And I said, yep. Did a test. My first wedding, it was a friend's wedding. And I said, what's the vibe? I asked them all my questions, spoke to them about their day. And it was old Hollywood glam, but a bit of vintage. And I thought, the Super 8 would look really good in that. But I've never used it. It could not work. And then it was 2 days before. It was the day before, and I was doing all the tests and it was all good. And I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and there was one video that came up and said, oh, and by the way, if you don't have this battery that you can't get anymore, it's a mercury battery. If you don't have that in there, the light meter won't work. And I thought, what? And I looked and it wasn't working. So I thought, I have to get this replica battery. And I thought, just leave it. You're going to stress yourself out. You have 2 weddings this weekend, just leave it. And then I thought, I can't leave it. I need this. I just feel like it would go so well with this wedding. So I drove across Melbourne. I said, I need these batteries. These mercury, they don't make them anymore, but these are the copy. Grabbed them, put them in, wouldn't work. Rang Dad. I was like, please come over. I was like, help me. I just need mental support for this. And I said, I'm using your dad's camera. And then we opened it and I said, now there was a lot of foil in there. And he said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to shove it with tin foil and then we're going to put it back on. And I held it down and then I thought, it's working. Okay, now we just need to replicate that. The light meter was working. So I was like, great, we're on. But then also I used it on the day. I used about 15, 30 seconds of it because I wasn't sure. And there's moments, it was a very fast-paced day. There wasn't time for me to do these things twice. I just got what I got home, sent the film off to development, came back a week later, loved it. I thought, great, I only wish I got more. There was a lot of my cats on there because I was testing them, a lot of my parents on there, but I loved it and I've used it since. Then a year later to the date, it was my cousin's wedding and my grandparents couldn't go. So I thought, what a beautiful way. I've recommended photographers, I've recommended videographers for them so I can be in the moment. But what a beautiful way to honor my grandparents. I'll capture some of Amy's wedding on Super 8. Go to use it. It's not working. The light meter's not doing its thing. It's not working. And because normally I have all my gear that if one camera's not working, no problem, we'll deal with it. And I was just so upset. And I was like, it's not my wedding. I'm not part of this. It was just a little thing you were doing. It's fine. And I thought, I'm still going to capture it. I'm still just going to use it just in case. And then I sent the film off, came back, it worked. Yeah. And I thought, oh my goodness, what a beautiful moment because I can actually give my cousin this little film and then she could go show my grandparents. So it was really nice. But getting back into gear is I use a Super 8 only sometimes. Super 8 footage is expensive and I don't believe it should be used for a whole wedding because especially if you want your wedding filmed, it's a 6-year-old camera. We've come a long way in 60 years. We've got these cameras for a reason. I've had friends who've caught Super 8 that the whole film was scratched. So it's not usable. So I use it a little bit, but there's also filters. There's many things you can do to make it look like Super 8. So if people want that, they don't have the budget for it. I say, okay, well, I can make it look you'll just know. But people love it when I bring it out. I have my drone, which I do sometimes pending weather. Pending time is the biggest because I had one the other day where it was beautiful, but they actually had another wedding on before. So it's disrespectful of me to fly my drone then. So waited. And then later on I was like, but I'd shot at the venue before. So I've got the shots. So I'll just work them in. I have multiple audio. I have backup cameras. You've really got to be prepared for every scenario. I have obviously things where the Zoom, I can plug into the Celebrant speaker. 50% of the time I won't get a clean line out. So I'll have to go to plan 2. I love to mic the groom or mic the bride, but sometimes I can't because they're both in white and they're both in dresses. So I can't mic. But if it's a groom and they're wearing black, I can. Sometimes they're wearing suspenders. So I have to go a different way. I have the little slim recorders that go on the Celebrant. And again, it's coming back to teamwork and communicating with them before. Hey, is it okay if I get a line out? Is it okay if I have this recorder? I'm going to put it on. It will not interfere. It's just, it doesn't, they have those questions because they're doing a job themselves. Can you imagine performing and then your speaker stops working? Or sometimes they just don't feel comfortable and I'll go another way. So you have to have multiple because I want that clean audio. I have multiple ways of doing it. I've got cameras that replace other cameras on the day. I've even got, and that's why I also, even when I pack my car, I'll pack my main kit in the back and I'll pack my other kit, the one on me, which has an audio source and it has 2 cameras, because I'm like, if someone runs up my car on the way here, I've still got some gear. That sucks. We'll deal with that later, because I can only do this day once. I don't get the most expensive lenses because I'm a bit haphazard with my gear as well. When shooting, there'll be some footage, I'm sure, of me getting sprayed in the face, of shooting, drinking, and we're just moving really quickly. So my gear gets knocked quite a bit. So for me, I don't want to do that and be like, that's a $5,000 lens. It allows me to get into places and get into especially dance floors. I love filming a good dance floor, and I love it because I'm happy to get my gear dirty. I've had someone spit at the camera. I've had someone cheers the camera and I'm like, it's fine. It's got a filter on it. I'll use ND filters throughout the day, variable, because time is always of the essence. What can I do for myself that's going to be quickest, and changing to another ND that's not variable is not. And then I'll also have just my backup gear of, okay, I've got umbrellas for my cameras, which many people laugh at. But until you have a camera that's about to overheat, and my Canons aren't known for overheating, but I've been at a wedding where they've said, I'm going to overheat because it was that hot. And especially when things happen. So maybe the couple runs late, it's 30 minutes behind, they've been sitting in the sun. It's all that experience. Now I'm more mindful. So, okay, well, until they're coming, I'm going to put them in the shade and then I'll pull them out. But I've got umbrellas for them. I also have lots of gear that I might not use all the time, but when I need it, I need it. So I had a wedding recently that it was set not to rain, but because it ran late, it rained and it poured. And it was one of the rare weddings I had a second shooter. I don't have them lots, but when I do, it's very needed because it's a really big wedding. There's not a lot of setup time, so we need to be as efficient with our time as possible. And even just packing up the gear, that's when the second can help me. So it started raining mid-ceremony. He was on a gimbal and I just said to him, we grabbed out our ponchos and I said, we had a tree. I said, put your gimbal down because it's not needed now. It's raining. We've got to cover the main cameras. And then I've still got to shoot. So I said, you jump on that camera, make sure it's covered. And we just put ponchos on everything. And then I just kept shooting. And it was what it was. It worked out really well, actually. But it was the ability to not worry about my gear after, because I thought a little bit of water's fine.
Yeah, you still got the shot.
Yeah, got the shots, got all of them. Got them and more. Probably could have shot less, but it was just adapting to that. So same when it's a really hot day, and I have had a camera die years ago, is like, okay, well, we'll get the main one and I'll cover it this way. And now I've learned from that and it won't happen again.
So you've mentioned you've tried to optimize your kit as much as possible, but there is still a lot of gear that you need to take. How do you manage that? Do you just put it all in your car and it's there just in case? Or do you go, oh, I don't need the poncho today?
I have a few things in my car that I don't need. So I have extra long sparklers. I always have champagne because they're great for champagne sprays. And everyone's like, oh, the venue will provide it. This is a 30-second shot. So I'll have it with me. So I pack it all into everything I need. So the ponchos are in there. They're designed. I don't even know I've got them. So even the wedding I had where I thought, oh, it's going to be sunny, I need to cover it. Like, didn't I buy umbrellas like 2 months ago? And then I was like, well done to me. Well done, past Kim. Thank you so much. And I just pulled them out, never used them before, but I knew I needed them because last time it happened, I thought I'm going to buy some. I'm going to have them because I need this. It all fits in one big bag. Then I have another bag. That's my main camera bag that sits on top. So I can like latch that on top. I'll wear my harness with my cameras. And then sometimes I have a little portable one with the Super 8 and that works out well for batteries. And then I'll just tuck batteries and everything in there. My main thing is how I handle the footage after as well. So I have like, obviously the cards are most important. Once I've shot the wedding, I don't care about the gear, I care about the cards. I've designed it so it's a blue card case. So if it was to drop out, it's easily seen. It's also got an air tag in there. So even when I'm not only just for like if I've lost it, because there's been I've never had it, but I've had friends who've lost it, had to go back to the venue. They've, thank goodness, found it. Thank goodness. But I've put an air tag in mine. But also if I'm in the car and I pull over, I'll be like, did I take everything. I can just ping. Actually, all my bags have air tags in them just so I can ping everything. It's all with me. We're all good to go. And then I also have my laptop bag. I'll back up if I can at a wedding, but I won't always back up because sometimes it's not respectful. You've got an open floor. Sometimes I'll be seated with the guests. Not really nice to pull out my laptop at a wedding and I'm just backing up footage. If I've got a room by myself to the side, I will absolutely just set it up, back it up, and I just feel better. I don't need to, but I just like to back it up and make sure it's all covered. But if not, that will stay in the car. So that doesn't come with me. If I get a chance at reception, I will go back. Everyone thinks, oh, you've got to travel a lot with the gear. I'm like, well, weddings are set up so that people can park and arrive. So normally I'll be able to get some parking close. And then my tripods are in bags and they sling. So if you look at me, I'm ready to go. And if someone tries to help me out, I'm like, I'm actually perfectly balanced. Thank you so much. But I'm perfectly balanced. And if you take something away, I will fall over. So that's how I do it. Yeah.
You don't have a cart or anything that you just put things in?
No, not yet. But I was doing an open day and I thought a cart would be great now. It's a big, it's like a travel. It looks like I'm going overseas. Looks like I'm going on a holiday, like a big bag like that. But I don't have a cart yet.
Yeah, carts are good when everywhere is wheelchair accessible. It's when there's flights of stairs that you're like, well, this is kind of pointless now.
Yes, and I have had that before, unfortunately, where it wasn't wheelchair accessible. And normally that's the first thing I ask is wheelchair access. But I have to have the ability. And they did have it, but it was unfortunately longer and more arduous to get to. It was driving around the back. And then I thought, no, that's, again, what am I going to leave my car there in the shot? No. So I just picked it up and that's what I'm saying. I can do it. I'll be puffed by the end of it. That's where the running and the fitness comes into it, is that I can do this and I just need a minute and now I can set up and now I can focus on what I need to do.
Yeah, that's good. So with your gear, when problems arise, how do you problem solve with the gear to make sure that you end up getting the shot? So if your camera is overheating, what do you do?
Honestly, depends on which camera. So if it's this one, I've had one time with one of my camera bodies that's now retired. Rest in peace. But I have retired that now, but that's why I've got the other body. I'll deal with that later. I think weddings, you've got 4 cameras. All my cameras can actually be taken and be put on a body. I always remember, because I edit a lot of my work, I always know what shots I need. And if it's ceremony speeches, if one camera failed, it depends on the timing. If I have time, I will replace it because I have my backup. If I don't have time, is when I'll prioritize. So if someone's doing a speech and I've got my camera on the speeches and I've got my camera on the couple's reactions, and one goes, okay, well, we're going to focus on the speaker because I can add those reactions. I can get those with the other camera, but the speaker is always going to be the most important for me. Normally in the ceremonious speeches, my gear's close enough that if I have 30 seconds or a minute, I can fix it within 30 seconds and a minute. When I've had problems in the past where I've been shooting and, like I mentioned, my camera, it just wasn't, I think I must have knocked something or overheated. To be honest, now that I think of it, I think it was actually some champagne got stuck in the camera, so it wasn't registering. But now I know I just need to click the touch screen. But it just wasn't registering record, and I just dropped it, and then I just filmed with my other one, and it was great, looks amazing. And then when I got back, I'm like, what are you doing? You embarrassed me in front of everyone. And then I've cleaned it, and then it works. So I think because, like I said, I'm a bit cowboy-like with the style I shoot, I let them spray me. Like when I do a champagne spray, we always say, just spray it at the camera. It's fine. It'll look great. And then after, I'm like, decisions were made and choices were made and directions were given. And now I'm missing my eyebrows. So it's just adapting. I've had times where, and it's back up. And I've got the mic back and they've clicked mute on their lapel. And I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you. It's not their job to worry about that. It's my job to make sure I've got other sources. And even at a bare minimum, I have the shotgun camera on at an absolute bare minimum, but I use that for the audience laughter, all that stuff. So I'm lucky that I've been in a lot of those situations that I can get myself out. And even when I take my gear, I have a full checklist, but I go, if I have my cameras, my tripods, my audio and my cards, I'll figure anything else out. I'm so organized that I have a checklist of everything that goes in each bag, and I just even tick it off, even though I think I've got this, it's all organized, but I do it. But I always tell myself, you can do this. regardless of the gear you've got. If you only have one camera, they're all just really emergency situations that I'm preparing for. Nothing is set up for us. If it was, I wouldn't be having a ceremony at 3 p.m. on a sunny day, but we have to make it work. And that's what we're hired to do, is to make it work for the couple and for the day. And, if we did it our way, but we're going to get married at sunset and we're going to come back and match the shots at dawn. We can't do that. We don't have that ability. So we have to be adaptable to every situation. And most people now are really, even MCs, venues, they're pretty much set up for weddings, and they say this is what normally works best. And I'm very big on trusting everyone in their domain. So if the venue manager says the speeches look great here, I'm going to look at that spot. And if the celebrant says, oh, I think we should wait half an hour. I know that beats into your time, but it's so hot, I'm going to trust you to do that. So I'm very always prepared for every scenario, plan for the worst, but fingers crossed for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're filming in some of these venues, do you walk in and go, oh, this is pretty dark, I wish I brought some lighting? Or do you bring lighting?
I have some lighting.
Yep.
I have it. Most venues are I would say not very well lit, but I always think people need to be able to see each other. And if they can't see each other, then there's a problem. I have had one venue where they had the outside floor and they must have been new to doing it in that area, because I actually thought this is actually dangerous because it's so dark. I have my lights, but I thought it's also dangerous. So I really don't like to set up lights on stands. I will, but I don't like it because, little Nana can walk by and knock it. I try to be as not in people's faces as possible, with also being mindful that the couple have hired me for a reason and they have this film in mind they want. I try not to set up that way, but normally it's fine. So this venue, I thought this is actually dangerous. And I had lots of multiple of these little LED panels. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? Unless they tell me off because they're busy I'm just going to put them to the side and facing in that way, just so people can actually see that there's a step up to the dance floor, because I can see what's going to happen here. So that was just me being mindful of, I don't want anyone to get hurt at this wedding. I still have to capture a good dance floor. That's not going to work if someone hurts themselves and ruin this couple's day. And then I just left. They were so cheap. I left one. I just said, do you guys want my light? Leave it. Because now everyone can enjoy the dance floor. They can actually see where they're going. Never dark enough that I can't film. There are some dark spaces, but that's where it comes back to, we're not filming on 6-year-old cameras anymore. I can shoot a lot in low light. In an ideal world, when it's a bit darker in a ceremony, it'd be great to light it. Is that a good experience for the couple? When you think to getting married, were you concerned about how well it's being captured in the light, or were you concerned about being married?
Yeah, the being married part, I'm not really thinking about the lighting.
Yeah, and you're not worried about it. It's okay, I need to do my job, but I also need to be not obtrusive. It's not about me. So whilst I would love to light this, that's not good for the viewer. That's not good for the couple. That's not good for the guests. It's good for me, but it's not true and authentic to the day. And so what if the ceremony is really contrasty? That was your day and everyone's going to remember it was hot. So we just film in a way that is flattering. I always control what I can, but I learn to deal with what I can't.
Yeah. And just for frame of reference, can you go through what the camera bodies are that you use?
Yeah. So I use an R6. So Canon, Canon.
Yep.
All Canon. Even the Super 8 is Canon. And that didn't mean. So I just love Canon. More on the expensive side, unfortunately. But I love Canon R6 and then 5D Mark IVs. And then my spare retired one is a Mark III. Yeah, it's a Mark III, just in case I need it. Just in case something comes up. I really like it. I will be transitioning to mirrorless, but I will always have a Mark IV in some capacity. So the gear that I use, whilst I've made it optimal for me and efficient, it isn't the most important thing. Yes, you have to have professional gear to do, and that's what they're paying me for. You need to give them a professional outcome and a beautiful outcome, but the gear is not the most important thing. Because like I said before, if you have the most expensive camera and the most expensive lens, but the couple look awkward, can't use that shot. And also they're going to want to remember how they feel. So people think, it's great if I get these great shots, but if they feel uncomfortable and they feel like I'm being bossy or they feel like I'm directing too much, they're going to remember that when they watch their film. They're going to watch back and be like, I felt so uncomfortable. Remember that was really awkward. I want them to feel like I'm just a friend. I'm just guiding them. It's their wedding. I'm just their backup dancers. I'm there for them. And we're also moving into a direction where the gear is not going to matter, which is proven by the fact of content creators who are just using iPhones. I can get a photo or a video well on an iPhone because I have that knowledge of exposure, of composition, of how to make someone comfortable. I'd rather have that skill set than the most expensive camera. That's what I focus on, is being a people person and serving the client on the day, not so much focused on, this is filming and this, you won't believe this beautiful shot. This lens is so expensive. It's focusing on you feel really comfortable. The lighting might not be perfect, but remember how happy you were and remember how much you were enjoying getting ready and laughing with your friends. Doesn't matter that the sun's not perfect. Doesn't matter that we're not using the lighting. It happens all the time where authentic and genuine moments will happen. And someone might greet their parents and they're just so excited to see them, even though they're not in their outfit or anything. And they just have this moment. And I don't want to be like, excuse me, can we please just move you into the light? You just got to let that happen. So you have to be willing to change and adapt to how you're shooting. The gear should serve what you do, but the person is more important, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Kim, for joining us today on the Your Story Studios podcast and telling us all about your camera gear that doesn't matter.
Thank you so much for having me. I couldn't have summed it up better.